Good morning, everybody. It is 5 o'clock on August 19th, 2019. It's a Monday, and today we are going to listen to the, excuse me, that's still too early. We're going to listen for the bass response on the HD700. And you might say, hey, look, didn't we already upload a bass response video yesterday? Well, yes, but it was more of a comparison than it was a true test of the HD700's bass. So this is really that test. One thing that I want to point out about Sennheiser's marketing is that they don't really make any mention about the bass response. Nothing that really jumps out at me. What they say is that it's a revolutionary design, it's open back, it provides, internal dampening, really airy, blah, 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 blah. It says it has outstanding soundstage with a warm and balanced audio reproduction. Well, I don't think that it's warm and balanced. That gives the wrong connotation. It gives you the impression that this is a closed-off headphone, that it's a relaxing headphone, and that's not the way I perceive it. And I don't think most people really perceive it this way either. I wouldn't call it warm. Maybe it's balanced. I don't know yet, but it certainly isn't a warm sound signature. It's more analytical than it is warm. They say that it has a highly efficient driver capable of delivering high sound pressure levels. Immense audio enjoyment is available at your fingertips. Okay, so not a whole lot of information. Now, I guess the trade-off is they give you a whole lot of nonsense, and I suppose this isn't really nonsense. It's just statements that don't mean a whole lot either way. All right, let's get to the bass response test. Oops, gotta pull up the screen here. Okay, now we usually start off with mountains, but we're gonna start off with something different today. This is a new song on my playlist, test playlist. This is Pure Water with Migos from Mustard and Migos. This is a hip hop song, and my test playlist lacked a hip hop song, and this one is a hip hop song. Let's see how the HD700 responds to hip hop. We are connected to the Rupert Neve headphone amplifier, which is being fed by the LDAC from JDS Labs. The volume is currently set at 10 o'clock. Here we go. Interesting. Very airy, open. So there's a bass element, like with most hip-hop songs, that's supposed to be really thumping, and it's supposed to hit you in the chest. Now, that's hard to do with headphones, but it's supposed to have an impact, and there's no impact. I can increase the volume to 12 o'clock and see if that makes a difference. No, doesn't make any difference. Just increases the volume. The bass is quite subdued. And when I've listened to the song in my car, I've listened to it on other headphones. It has this really vibration, heavy, and thumping bass. The HD700 reproduces this song in a much more clinical, lean way. So the bass is quite lean. I mean, everything is crystal clear. Good separation of instruments and vocalists. Vocal is clear. But here's the thing. When you listen to hip-hop songs, I think, are pretty cool because there's such a great meld between the vocalist and the bass. I mean, the bass is a backup singer, essentially, in a hip-hop song. It provides that gusto and it provides the character, and it sets the tone more often than not, because the bass typically starts off the song and it sticks true to the rest of the song. It remains the same. And that is like the metronome for the song itself. So the bass is incredibly important for a hip-hop song. Unfortunately, the HD700 takes the bass and ratchets it down significantly to the point where, again, it's an effect, not a component. I spoke of this yesterday. The bass is present. I can hear it, but I can't feel it. It's no longer part and parcel of the song and unseparated, but instead it's there. It's a detail. It's something that you can listen to if you pay attention, but it is nothing that you feel impactful. So for hip-hop purposes, I don't think the HD700 really cuts the mustard. See what I did there? Made by mustard, so it doesn't cut the mustard. 5 o'clock humor. Let's go to Dreamer by Charlie XCX, and you know how much I hate Dreamer, but it does have bass. So let's listen to Dreamer. Here we go. Volume is still at noon. There's this low rumbly bass effect that starts off the song. And it's fairly muted. There's amazing soundstage and verticality. Now the vocalist is singing. Oops. And the bass is really light. Really, really light. So one of the things that this song does for me is that really orchestrated and manipulated and electronic bass that's mastered, mixed into this song, simply doesn't sit well for me. What the HD700 does is, like I said before, it takes the bass and then ratchets it down significantly so that it's not a necessary component of the song anymore. At least that's how it sounds. Very, very lean bass. So that part where the electronic processed bass is distorted no longer is an issue for the HD700 because it completely disregards the bass, the impact of the bass. The vocals come out very crystal clear, unfortunately, because her voice is terrible. But if you want to just listen to the vocals of a hip-hop song, like either Pure Water or Dreamer, and you don't want to mess with the bass, then the HD700 is a remarkable headphone for doing something that's rather unique. It just takes the bass and says, no bass for you. It's like the soup Nazi from Seinfeld. No soup for you. No bass for you, says Sennheiser HD700. Interesting. You know, it's just throughout the song, like we're 2 minutes into the song, and I can't hear the bass. I can hear the drums, but I can't hear the bass. You know, there's a big difference. You know that there is. You can hear drums, that's one thing. But when you hear the bass, you know that it's about the rumbliness, it's about the impact, it's about the way that it interacts with the rest of the song, of the mix, and how deep it can get. And I have to say, so far, although that the headphones, it can get, fairly deep, there's a good reproduction of the sub-bass frequencies. It's just so lean that there's no impact. Let's go to, let's see, what's another good one? Let's go back to Angel by Massive Attack. We did this yesterday, but let's go to Angel by Massive Attack. Layers and layers and layers of bass. So let's do that. Here we go. We are at, let's bring up the volume to about 11 o'clock. There we go. That low rumble that starts off Angel, clean, clear, undistorted, and very lean. There's this like heartbeat bass element that comes in around 10 seconds into the song. He goes da-dun, da-dun. Lean once again, but crystal clear. No real impact. I think the enjoyment for Angel is having all of that reverberating and overwhelming bass, the layers and layers of bass. So what the HD700 does, it reveals the layers, and that's it. It doesn't do anything else for this song. If you're looking for bass layering, then the 700 will provide that. But if you're looking for bass impact, the 700 will not, in my opinion, provide that. I'll increase the volume to noon. Paired with the Rupert Neve, I keep saying Richard, paired with the Neve headphone amplifier, which is fairly clean, and I don't hear any real emphasis anywhere in the bass region. Let's go to Moons by MB. I'm going to increase the volume to 12 o'clock. When this song starts out, there's this fluctuating sound. It's very neat. And then the bass comes in. It's process bass again. It goes dun, 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 dun. And a little too clinical, in my opinion. It's light, no real emphasis. Good separation of the layers of detail here. You hear that synth sound that started off the song. You hear the bass. You hear this, I think it's not an electric piano, but it's something that comes up slowly in the right ear cup and just builds up. And then there's this kind of a sizzling sound that's parted in like a middle layer somewhere. The 700 is exceptional at providing all of those details. Let's skip ahead a little bit, and let's go to about 2 minutes into the song. Now, in a few moments, this song is going to cut off all the instruments, and then the bass, the first level of bass is going to come in, and then a deeper bass is going to come in. It's going to be dun dun dun, and then a deep bass. By the way, it's kind of a small fact right here. I think this is the part of Joshua Velour's intro. I think this is where he got it from, right now. Yeah. So it happens about 2:35. Let's go back to 2:33. So all the instruments are playing, and then there's a brief pause, and there's a lingering reverberation, and then the drum comes in, dun dun dun, very quick, dun dun dun. The last time it hits dun, it stops, and there should be a slight reverberation. Then the big bass comes in. Let's see what kind of reverberation we get after the last dun. Yeah, very, very fast. The decay is non-existent, essentially. It is dun, 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 and move on. Very interestingly different experience, where other headphones that have a bumped up bass, have a more accentuated bass, will drag that out, and that frequency will linger a little bit longer, and then the bass, the rumbly bass will come in, and it's just, it's rumbly. Whereas on the HD700, that rumbly bass is not really rumbly. It's just a different type of bass, a different tonality of bass. Yeah, it's din 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 din. That's the big bass. Now imagine that you have a car, or your friend has a car, and he or she has, most likely a he, let's be honest, he has installed a subwoofer in the trunk of his car, and that subwoofer cost him his entire paycheck for the month. Before he installed that subwoofer, he was listening to Moons by MB. And this portion of the song sounded a particular way. Then he installed that subwoofer, and you listen to that song again. No matter how good or bad that subwoofer is, the bass response is going to be dramatically different from the small subwoofer, tweeter, whatever else that the car, depending on the car, has in there. And that's the type of difference I'm talking about. The HD700 is the lean car bass signature versus the thick, full, in-your-face, bass-heavy signature of other headphones that are not lean. I know I'm talking about really big, drastic changes, and some people might say that's not how I hear it, and that's okay. Maybe you don't hear it that way. But when you compare it with other headphones that are more accentuated on the bass, it's a night and day difference. That doesn't mean that it's a bad headphone for bass. It might be exactly the type of bass that you're looking for. This is exactly how you listen. You're not a bass head. You don't like listening to the bass frequency for one reason or another. You would rather focus on the mid-range and the top frequency. And this headphone delivers. And, at least in the small context of limiting lean bass. Overall, what do I think? Well, I wouldn't pick these headphones for bass. I really would not pick these for hip hop, EDM, or any other bass heavy genre. That doesn't mean that these headphones will respond poorly to those types of genres. It's just that if you listen to that type of stuff, if you listen to hip hop or EDM, then you know that you want the bass. You know you want it. That's why you have Beats. Now, okay, so some of you may listen to hip hop and not have Beats. Fine. But plenty of people buy Beats headphones because they want to listen to hip hop music or EDM, because the Beats accentuates that bass frequency. That's how it really is meant to be heard, right? The HD700 does not comply. It will never give you that bass response. You can keep cranking up the volume and it'll just get louder. It's not going to deviate from its lean presentation in the bass frequency. However, if you're looking for clarity and separation of instruments, the HD700 does the job really, really well. It will separate the multiple bass instruments. It will provide clean, crystal clean, undistorted bass frequencies. The bass does not distort any other portions of the frequency range. It doesn't meld into the mids. It doesn't deviate into destroying the higher frequency range, the treble. Everything has its place. Part of the reason, as I said, is because the bass is so lean. So the headphones simply will not allow it to interfere with the rest of the frequency range. I hope this has been of some help. Our next video is going to be the mids comparison between the 700 and the audeze. And we're going to have two very different presentations. We have the 700, which is, we'll get to that. But we know for a fact that that the audeze is incredibly silky smooth. We've already done this test many times, but it's incredibly silky smooth. But to some people, that silky smoothness is undesirable. You don't get the true sonic experience of a singer. Well, let's see if the HD700 provides a more, quote, natural representation of the mids. That's coming up next on our following video. Have a wonderful Monday. Take care of yourselves. I hope that you have a great week and that you can ease into your upcoming weekend. Take care.